Hello Tacticians, today we're going to be looking at the final character to fill out the Genestealer cult roster, Judh, the Kellermorph, and if you really want to make sure that you unlock her, you may need to purchase the Battle Pass. It's not ideal, but they have done characters like this before, and I guess they will do them again in the future. As always, thank you to everyone who supports the channel, whether it's through hitting that button and subscribing, or use my friend code, as it really does help me out. So, what can Judh do? Well, let's start with the traits, and as with most of the Genestealer cults, apart from the Pay-to-Mine, it has Ambush. So the first time it's defeated, it will leave behind a decoy and get resurrected at full health at the beginning of the next turn, if there's still a decoy there. And kind of interestingly, it has Beast Slayer, where it will deal 20% extra melee damage to big targets and vehicles, and also has a 10% chance to block 20% of its max health as damage, which might give it a little bit of survivability, but we'll have a look at that in a bit. And, like Calandis, it has access to the 2 crit items and the 1 crit booster, which will mean, as you can see here at Epic, you've nearly got a 50% chance to add nearly 2,000 damage to whatever it crits, and considering you've got those 3 projectile hits for both melee and shooting, you could end up doing quite a lot of damage indeed. So, what about the skills? And here are all the stats at various breakpoints. The interesting bit here is the active ability, where Judh will target an enemy unit that is a free surrounding hex within movement range 2 of Judh, or is already on a hex surrounding Judh. She then moves to a free hex and then deals projectile damage to the target and all other enemies surrounding it. So we're going to have a little look at that when we look at the gameplay. Crits will deal additional damage based on each free hex surrounding the targeted enemy. What's interesting about this is when Judh is resurrected, and if she had already used Heroic Fusillade, then when she comes back, it will be able to be used again this battle. So that means you can use this twice in one battle, which is pretty damn good. Her passive ability, the Hypersensory Abilities, is absolutely fantastic to keeping her alive, because the first time each enemy turn that Judh is attacked, she cannot fall below 40% of her current health. After the attack, she moves to a free hex and places a decoy on the hex she moved from. Then, if she is still within 2 hexes of the unit that attacked her, she will shoot back using projectile damage at that unit. So this is a great way that Judh can keep herself alive, because that first attack is never going to kill her. That means you're going to have to put 2 attacks into her to make sure she dies. And also, it's a free attack coming back. So overall, quite a survivable character. And that Heroic Fusillade, there's a lot there to look into. So let's have a look at some gameplay. As with all new characters, I always like to see if they can take an Overwatch shot from Calandis. So let's move Judh forward, bearing in mind that their hypersensory abilities only takes place when it's the enemy's turn. So if we move forward, there's the crit and overkill. So don't walk in to those snipers. So let's set this back up again. And instead of it happening that way, let's flip it around. So Calandis is going to take a shot into Judh during Calandis' turn. So Judh is now on the lower ground, and Calandis is even going to take the higher ground to take the same shot. There's the crit. There's Judh moving in, thanks to, again, those hypersensory abilities allowing her to move when she is shot, and taking a pot shot back at Calandis. So you can see that even with a massive shot like Calandis just put in, Judh will survive that first attack. However, there are characters that have multiple attacks per turn, such as Kharn. So let's see what happens there. So Kharn has 2 attacks, the initial attack and then the follow-up attack, which he gets at the end of the round. So if we move and attack, you can see, I wasn't expecting that. You can see that the first attack goes off, Judh moves away, and then the retaliation shot actually killed Kharn, which I must admit I wasn't expecting when I was setting this up. So what if this time Kharn comes down and uses his active ability, which has 3 separate types of attack? Well, there you go, the outcome is the same, although this time Judh didn't kill him. There must have been a couple of crits in that first one. So now I'm thinking, what if it's someone who attacks at the end of their move, such as Sword by the Godswyl? Okay, so here we've got Sword Brother Godswyl, who's going to charge in, and he does an automatic attack at the end of his turn. That again triggers that move from Judh. So Judh is actually going to be a very tricky customer to try and pin down. Of course, she's not invulnerable. Now that she's been hit once, she can still be killed. But the decoys do mean that she'll be back. And again, that got me thinking, what if Judh is taunted? So let's taunt with Brother Jaeger, and then attack. That time she can't move away, so the taunt will hold her in place, but of course she's still saved by those hypersensory abilities of hers. The final one I want to look at, just for this one ability, is what happens when Abraxas summons. Okay, so I've set up Abraxas next to Judh, and we're going to start summoning in the pink horrors and the like. See what actually happens. Moves up, and because it was the pink horror that attacked Judh, Judh is actually attacking the pink horror rather than Abraxas, so it's worth bearing that in mind as well. You may have also noticed there when Judh went on to these hexes, which are the territory hexes, you get that shield, which is why I've been avoiding them, but that is going to be a thing in future territory tournament arenas. So let's have a good look at the heroic Fusillade. Judh will target an enemy that has free surrounding hex within movement range too, so that's pretty easy so far. She'll then move to the free hex, so if I chose Sword Brother Godswyl, she'll move here. If I chose Kharn, it would also be on this point. She'll then move to the free hex and deal projectile damage to the target and all other enemies surrounding it. So that'd be surrounding the target we choose. So if we choose again Sword Brother Godswyl, it won't hit Kharn, but it will hit the pink horror, Abraxas, and Brother Jaeger. The crits will deal additional crit damage for each free hex surrounding the target. So here we'll only have one free hex, so there won't be that much crit damage. But if we decide to go for Kharn, because there's more free hexes around Kharn, we'll get higher crit damage. So it's a case of you can take that risk and target fewer people, fishing for those crits, or you can try and hit a lot more with just the bog standard damage. So I am going to kind of choose the halfway house. We're going to choose to hit Sword Brother Godswyl. Must have got a few crits, or at least Kharn was on lower here. So Kharn died, and we got a few points of damage off both of these. So the heroic Fusillade is quite cool. And assuming that Judh then dies and is able to return, we're not going to jump on those, we can see that Judh has access to the heroic Fusillade yet again. So again, you can trigger it and deal that damage again. Now, it doesn't do much damage to those two Space Marines. Their armour is fairly good, but if it was against other people, like maybe Abraxas or Calandis, who have got a lower armour stat, then maybe it would be quite decent there. Overall, a very interesting character, and one that you're not going to want to underestimate, as I think the potential is there for this character. And I'm going to really have to delve into this team for the faction TA, because there's so much going on, I'm really not sure I've got my head around all of it just yet. Especially when you start taking into account all the decoys that can come in because of Isaac, Zybeer, and indeed Doc Holland here. Is Judh a character you're going to want to get? I think this character is actually quite good and can stand on her own. What really would have been nice to put this character over the top would have been the infiltrate trait, so that she didn't trigger those Overwatch shots. Having said that, she is in a very good position and doesn't need to be in a Genestealer cult team to actually work, although it certainly does help. I don't see her being useful in guild raids, but in Guild Wars, being able to use that ability twice, I think is going to be absolutely fantastic. And I'm really going to have to delve into the entire faction to see how well I think that they're going to do in upcoming faction tournament arenas. Assuming you do unlock Judh, it's a character that is going to warrant increasing both its active and passive abilities, both of which allow her to shoot and possibly kill the enemy very well indeed. And, as I said, those shots aren't something to be sniffed at. If you like these videos, then it would be much appreciated if you at least think about using my friend code, as it really does help me out. Or if you or your guilds are looking for a new home, please reach out to any of the guilds shown, as we'll always welcome new people into our midst. As always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.